Hello and welcome to the Checkmate podcast. I will be your host Alicia Helen to give you the rundown with the F1 world, including race weekends, championships and so much more. Let's get started with the 2023 Azerbaijan Sprint. The Baku Sprint saw Leclerc hitting the barriers, however he qualified by already setting a benchmark of 1 minute 41.697 seconds to take the sprint pole. The Mexican driver, Sergio, could only manage second for the shootout whilst Verstappen struggled with grip and took P3 for the sprint. Medium tires were mandatory for first and second sessions of qualifying, whilst teams had to fit a new set of softs for the third. In session 3, Russell managed P4 for Mercedes, but Sainz was compromised by his Ferrari teammates' crash and ended up rounding out the top 5 ahead of Hamilton, who placed behind the Spaniard in 6th. Albon was 7th on the board for Williams, ahead of the Aston Martins of Alonso in P8 and Stroll in P9, both suffering from DRS issues that carried over from Friday qualifying. Lando Norris rounded out the top 10, having sat out the third session without a new set of softs. During session 2, drivers had only 10 minutes to set times, and it was Verstappen who led the Ferraris. In the second segment of the shootout, McLaren's Piastri was eliminated in P11 ahead of Nico Hülkenberg in P12. Esteban Ocon took P13 for Alpine and Magnussen was left 14th. Logan Sargent qualified a provisional P15 for the sprint, but the Williams driver had crashed in session 1. Sargent crashed out at turn 15 to end the session prematurely. Sargent's crash led to the elimination of both Alfa Romeo's Zhou Guanyu qualifying a provisional 16th and Valtteri Bottas 17th, plus a furious Yuki Tsunoda. Pierre Gasly couldn't put down a proper time and ended up 19th, while NYCK de Vries, who crashed out of Q1 on the Friday, qualified a provisional P20 for the sprint, having made an error at turn 3 in the first session. Sargent didn't take part in the sprint due to sustained significant damage to his Williams in the shootout. The grid was also another car lighter after Alpine made suspension changes on Esteban Ocon's car under park firm conditions. The drivers all started on medium tires apart from Norris and Bottas. Pole sitter Leclerc jumped out of his grid slot to maintain the lead in turn 1. Behind an incredible tussle between Russell and Verstappen, the pair going side by side through a sequence of corners before the Mercedes nosed ahead of the Red Bull at turn 3. Verstappen ended up requested an FIA investigation at the challenge, and AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda understeered into the wall at the exit of turn 13 following contact with teammate NYCK de Vries, littering debris, and his rear right tire, over the circuit. With the virtual safety car deployed, Leclerc managed to fight off P1 from Perez, Russell, Verstappen and teammate Sainz, with Alonso clearing Williams' Alex Albon to put his Aston Martin on the tail of Hamilton's Mercedes. Despite losing a wheel, Tsunoda limped his way back to the pits and mechanics attempted to make repairs. However, it became clear as soon as he rejoined the track that the damage was terminal, forcing the full safety car to make an appearance, under which Ocon opted for a cheap stop and switched to softs. Red Bull radioed Verstappen to confirm floor damage. "How?" Verstappen replied. His engineer then replied, "How do you think?" That prompted further frustration from Verstappen, who added, "Mate, I don't understand how he can keep the position and he's damaging my car." Up in the front of the grid, there were concerns for the race leader Leclerc, who reported a cut, later confirmed to be a cat, on the radio, but the Monegasque quickly had to turn his attentions to the race restart, with the safety car reeling into the pits and the green flag action resuming at the end of lap 5. Leclerc mastered the restart to keep his advantage at turn 1, with Perez again holding on to second place, as Verstappen made up for his opening lap disappointment by finding a way back past Russell for the final podium spot as things stood. Sainz defended his position to remain fighting, whilst Alonso tousled against Hamilton to gain another position and rise to 6th. A few car lengths behind, Albon kept himself in the final points-paying position, with Stroll and Norris not far behind to keep him company. Shortly after restart, Perez got within DRS range of Leclerc and made a clean overtake as the pair moved on to lap 8 with Verstappen sitting a second and a half back. Further back on the grid, Oscar Piastri pulled a pass on teammate Norris to move up to 10th. As the race entered its final stages, Stroll found a way past Albon into turn 1 to momentarily take the final point on offer, whilst Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg caused further excitement by going to battle over 11th position in the two Haas's. Perez, however, maintained his composure up front whilst the final laps ticked by, ultimately taking the checkered flag almost 5 seconds clear of Leclerc, who managed to keep Verstappen at bay for the runner-up spot. Russell and Sainz followed in 4th and 5th respectively, with Alonso, Hamilton and Stroll securing the final points on offer, denying Albon and Piastri, who followed that pack closely across the line. Magnussen ultimately led Haas charge in 11th, with Hülkenberg all the way down to 15th amid tire struggles. Bottas opted against a switch from softs to mediums and logged a distant 16th place, followed by final finishers Norris and Ocon, while Tsunoda watched from the sidelines after his early accident. Thank you for tuning into the Checkmate podcast. I've been your host Alicia Helen with the rundown of the 2023 sprint race, and I'll hopefully see you next time with another episode.